I'm here with Nicole Sturgill, the Research Director of Retail Banking and Cards at CEB TowerGroup, who was on a panel today about customer experience at the CIO Straight Talk Live event on that topic. I was interested about a couple of things that you mentioned today, Nicole. One of which is in an industry like banking or financial services, where traditionally the relationship or the experience was partly a function of the personal relationship one had with his or her banker, and yet financial services has been one of the areas where technology has changed the face of customer experience. Do those two elements of the experience a customer has intersect? Do they work off one another, that being technology and personal relationships?
Yeah, they have to intersect, whether we want them to or not, whether they organically do or don't, because we expect that when we have a personal relationship, that's one part of the relationship. But when I'm not sitting in front of you, I expect to be able to look online, check my phone, call a call center, go to the ATM. All of those things have to happen as well. And so technology and the personal relationship must be connected in the customer's mind. And it really comes down to what are the many ways that I can access my money? What are the things that I want to do with my money? And it may be that I want to talk to you about certain things like opening a new account, but I just want to check balances on my mobile device. And so technology really has to underpin the whole relationship, even as from a personal relationship standpoint. That, say it's a relationship manager, a personal banker, whoever that might be, needs access to information about me, about my accounts, about what I might need next. And so that's underpinned by technology as well. So it has to intersect.
You mentioned, I think, on the when you were moderating the panel about how the customer experience at a bank or financial institution is somewhat different because there is an emotional connection people have with their money. Expand a little bit on that. I thought that was an interesting point.
Yeah, I think that there's a difference between a retail relationship and a banking relationship, because if you have my money, I expect to be able to get it when I need it. It's not the same thing as when I go to Banana Republic and want to buy a dress. I can leave, I can decide not to. I don't need it, I just want it. I need my money. And so the relationship between the two is entirely different. And the reason that we have greater expectations of customer service from our financial institutions is because we need access to our money. We've entrusted the bank with our money with the expectation that we'll be able to get it back if and when and how we need it. And so I think it's just a fundamental difference between the two industries, and we have to recognize that and accept it and work with it.
Which raises expectations. Is that what you're saying, that customers have for a financial services institution that they might not have for a normal retailer then?
Absolutely. When you're thinking of, there are also so many more things you can do with a bank, and you can open accounts. You want to check your balances. You need to pay bills. You need to transfer money. There's so many more things that you need to do, as opposed to if I'm going into a store to buy a computer, I just need to select a computer and I can walk away. My big decision is whether or not I also want to buy printer paper. There's a huge difference, as opposed to the way that we interact with our money is because we have to. It's not a want relationship, and so I think that's really you cannot equate the two. We can look to retail for good experiences. You can look at the customer service that a retail organization can provide and say, what can we learn from that? But to equate the two and say they should be exactly the same is not true, and the expectations on financial services are always going to be much higher than anything we're going to see in retail.
You do research about the financial services industry to try to provide some evidence for the ways in which customers might want their experience better or certain things they might be looking for that a bank or a financial services institution could institute. What have been some of the interesting findings of your research over the past several years? Maybe something that surprised you, or maybe something that strongly reinforced an impression you already had?
Yeah, I would say probably one of the biggest surprises has been that customers don't necessarily expect to have the best experience ever every time they call, or every time they walk in, or every time they log on. It's not that they're expecting you to give them a free toaster when they call, or to waive every fee that they ask, but they do expect that you give consistently good service. So you may, if you have a perfectly good reason for not waiving the fee, they're fine with that. Not all of them, so don't take it with a grain of salt. But they can be fine with that if they understand it. So a lot of it really comes down to what they learn in the process and how well you resolve an issue for them. Doesn't mean you have to fix it. It does mean that you have to resolve it, explain it, maybe teach them something else. In their mind, it needs to feel fixed. Some of the things that we've measured that I think are very interesting is that the greatest increase in a customer's willingness to buy more from a bank comes when they learn something as a result of a customer service experience. So if they learn that, let's say you call with a travel notification and you find out that you can do that online the next time, that increases their willingness to buy more. You were helpful to them. And so those are things that, there's actually some ROI behind this that we don't usually, it's usually hard to figure out what the ROI behind customer experience is going to be. That's one that I think is critical, that learning experience, once you've met all their other needs, that learning experience actually does increase their willingness to buy more from the bank.
Does that suggest, for example, if you were trying to cross-sell a service, that it might be more important to explain what that service is rather than simply to promise terrific benefits, or?
Yeah, exactly. There are two things that I think go in that particular scenario. Is one, that service has to be relevant. So why did they call, and is it a logical extension of the reason that they called? So if I call because about my car loan, and you ask if I want a savings account, not relevant, right? So if I call because I have a car loan and you ask if I want to do a skip-a-pay, that's relevant. And so there's the relevance factor that I think is extremely important. And then there's also that, by skipping a payment, there will be there's no fee for skipping it. It will extend the period of your loan by X amount. You're teaching them about it. They can make an informed decision. That's the customer learning experience. And it's very important. They're much more likely to buy if they truly understand it than if you just say, would you like to skip a payment? Well, I would, but what's that going to do for me? You have to be able to explain it clearly.
I thought your last very simple, not checklist so much, but calculus for determining what is important in a customer's experience with a bank was an interesting one. I think you mentioned 3 variables that anybody trying to assess or improve the experience a customer has with a bank should consider. And tell me again what those 3 things are and how they play out.
Yeah, the 3 things are very simple, literally. One is it faster for the customer? So if you're looking at a project and something that you're thinking of implementing at the bank, you can ask yourself these 3 questions. 1, is it going to be faster for the customer? Can they do it faster than they can today? Is it easy for them to get? Is it something that's downloadable? It's a quick phone call. How do they access it? Is it, if you're at the ATM, is it personalization? Press 2 buttons and you're done. So is it easy? And then the third is it simpler? Is it a simpler process than what they have to go through today to complete that transaction? So faster, easy to get, and simpler. If you can answer yes to any of those questions, then you have a good customer experience on your hands.
A simple calculus, but of course executing the various aspects of that are the same. Nicole, thank you very much for being here today and moderating the panel for us and taking a few minutes to chat. I appreciate your being here.
Thank you very much. Thanks for your time.